Transcendental meditation is one of those techniques that brings us to what Krishna says to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. And I'm using these terms because they have been introduced already. What Krishna says as the ultimate solution for all the problems that this great warrior on the battlefield was facing, who represents us in our life as warriors for health, warriors for well-being, warriors for all aspects of our existence, for better relationship, for education, for peace on earth. He says something very central, which is Yoga Star Guru Karma, which means established in being, perform action. And this is really the ultimate solution to all problems. If we can get established in ourselves on the level of pure existence, pure being, having a stable awareness and consciousness, we will be working from a platform of inner intelligence and strength and clarity of vision and ability to achieve maximum. Yoga Star means established in that field of yoga, which is the unity of mind, body, and also the unity of mind, body, and the universe as a whole. And that is the field of pure consciousness. The transcendental field, we call it. Transcending means to go beyond. To go beyond your daily problems. We are always looking to solve the things by looking at the things from the outward as if the solution and the problem are only outside. And we forget that we are the element, we are the person, we are the individual that is going to see things from our own perspective, act on things from our own perspective, solve the situation with whatever creativity and intelligence what we have within us. And if we are disrupted and disturbed mentally and physically for health, then our ability to handle and to act and to do things is going to be less effective, less efficient. And that is why established in the self, perform action. Transcend. So whenever you go to a tree that has maybe some problems in the leaves or some problems in the fruits, some problems in the branches, and it's weakening. If you try to fix the root, the flowers and the leaves on the surface, you will get very little effect. Maybe you have forgotten to water the roots of the tree, and the tree is dying as a whole, and all the surface values that appear to be different and separate are nourished from the same roots, but you have forgotten to water the root. So there is a time when one goes back, withdraws, goes back to the self, and then acts. Nature has organized this in our life already. We sleep, and then we are awake. If we want to achieve most, we have to be most restful, most settled within ourselves. And we want in this conference, as we beautifully heard, to have the outstanding, most modern, most advanced technologies. What is very interesting is that some of these technologies can come from the most ancient, most tested throughout the history of time and the history of humanity, techniques of self-development, techniques of being able to overcome situations that come to us by withdrawing, by going back to the self. If you want your arrow to hit the target, you pull it back first on the bow, and then you let go of the arrow. So this ability to transcend, that's what transcending means, to go beyond the surface value to the ocean of life. I'd like to present to you some of the research that's pertaining to exactly what we're facing today, and then with a short time explain what my work and contribution has been in terms of explaining why it works, how it works. First, we want to know that transcending, going back to the self, actually really works. So it's a technique. First, what is a technique? you have heard a lot about mindfulness and different techniques. We want to talk about TM technique, which is transcendental meditation. Here there are some highlights which says that it's not a philosophy, it's not a way of life, it's not a belief system. It's a very easy, very simple technique that even children can practice from a young age, and they can improve gradually, and you don't have to have any previous knowledge of philosophy or understanding. And therefore, it is applicable to all, and that's what science is about. Science is that thing which uses the laws of nature and is not dependent on individual belief in it or not. It works whether you believe it or you don't. The basic idea is the mind is a field, like a field of ocean, let's say. This maybe shows like an ocean, let's say. And it has on its surface waves. This is the active thinking. And we can project our thinking outwards, which means towards the wave. And in transcendental meditation, we take the mind inwards, so we direct the mind towards the inside. And the mind then, guided by its own nature, which is to always seek more charm, more happiness, more fulfillment, actually dives within. And the reason why, and that's what we will explain, is that within ourselves is the greatest possible fulfillment, because this is our self, our being, our source of our intelligence, our source of our thoughts, our source of our creativity. So we think a thought, we don't know where it comes from, but it comes from a place where there is creativity, intelligence, that is kind of computed in a way that we are not conscious of on the surface. But if we take our awareness there, and there is a technique, that's transcendental meditation, it takes you to a state which we call a state of restful alertness. The mind settles down, you're completely settled, rested, and the science has shown through many, many studies, hundreds of scientific research studies, that the body rests profoundly, but the mind remains very alert. Reaction time is faster, alertness is there, but there is great settled restfulness. Profound effects, very contrasting between what would be a situation when one is active and projected outside, as for example in fight or flight or freeze response, compared to what happens during transcendental meditation. Cortisol level, for example, goes very deeply during transcendental meditation. Cortisol is an indication of the level of stress. And there are many other indicators, such as heart rate, as we have seen, skin resistance, etc. But this was just to show you that it's for real. What happens in the brain is great coherence. So we use our brain like, let's say, a computer, but it is much more than that. And it has many processors in it. What we have seen in summary in transcendental meditation is that when you transcend, there is alpha wave coherence that is established throughout the brain, which means there is a new functioning of the brain which is integrated as if all the processors are now working together instead of being in a way that is not coherent and not harmonious. And we have seen improvements in all these values: greater creativity, field independence, practical intelligence. This is where intelligence has also emotional intelligence because it's practical, it's effective. There is improved mental efficiency and also fluid intelligence. Of course, the time doesn't allow to go into what each one of these are here, but you can see the p-values in the bottom that show a very, very high significance. So these values are not, we're not talking about hopeful thinking. These are scientific research studies that have demonstrated repeatedly the importance of those techniques. Anxiety, for example. In recent times, we have seen huge changes in medical professions, medical health professionals going through COVID. They have had terrible situations, and many have experienced anxiety, depression, suicide, insomnias. And thanks to the research that has been done before, we have now in more than 90 hospitals, particularly, for example, in New York, and great institutions, the use of transcendental meditation. This shows how before TM and after TM, whether you start with a high anxiety level or even moderate anxiety on the left side, you can see how after TM, the anxiety levels decrease dramatically. This is on PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorders, in military veterans. It's been used in the United States. And it compares transcendental meditation to the usual techniques that are used, which is one of them prolonged exposure and health education. And you see the improvements from different perspectives. These different columns that you see here represent on the left side transcendental meditation, then in the middle prolonged exposure, and the lower one on the right side of the columns, the comparison of how much improvement there is, and you see very highly significant. And that is why now even in Veterans Administration has adopted transcendental meditation for cure and prevention and help in disease. And the different blocks that you see here are different ways of testing for PTSD, which is either through questionnaires or through physician's assessment. So it's both subjectively and objectively showing the important transformations. Now we come to the physical level. What does this mind do to the physical aspect of life, which is also very important? We have put people that have coronary artery disease and artery disease in general through a 5-year follow-up studies and compared them to controls through health education, eat the right thing, do the exercise, etc., and those who practice transcendental meditation. Over 5-year studies, 48% lower rate of cardiovascular and stroke-related diseases, 48% less death, less problems from these cardiovascular diseases. And guess what? When we looked at it even more carefully, this 48% was for those who are on average practicing transcendental meditation once a day. Those who practice twice a day, which is the recommended practice, they had 66% less disease and less problems. So this consciousness-based technology of the ancient Vedic tradition, Yoga Stakuru Karmani, saves lives effectively in a most efficient way because it's less costly, it is do-it-yourself technique, and it is most effective. So the American Heart Association recommends it, and this is the program I talked about, which we have called Heal the Healers Now, and this new initiative is now in 90 hospitals, and they are doing research on it. Time doesn't allow me to go in great detail, but you can see some of those hospitals that reported studies about transcendental meditation and its effects on doctors. Brigham's and Women's Hospital, Harvard Medical School. There is at Miami multi-site hospital study, many hospitals. Duke Medical Center, Weill Cornell at New York, Presbyterian Hospital has done it, and these are some of their research. This is, for example, on emotional exhaustion. It shows significant reduction in exhaustion and anxiety traits, depressions, and different factors. And they are now recommending it to their patients. And this is what the doctors say when we did ask them. For example, would you recommend TM to a friend? And 93% they said yes, they would. So burnout is reduced. How does it work? It works through consciousness. We need a new paradigm. And the new paradigm is the most ancient paradigm. And it comes from Veda and Vedanta, which says that consciousness is primary. The paradigm today is that the physical universe is primary, that everything comes from some energy that appeared somehow vaguely on the Big Bang and then led to particles and molecules and cells and then complexified and created the human nervous system, which then led to the emergence of consciousness. The reality is different, and there are converging arguments and converging factors and scientific findings that tell us that consciousness is primary, and by awakening consciousness within ourselves, we improve our life, like watering the root to enjoy the fruits of the tree, going deep within. And also there have been scientific findings how the collective practice of consciousness-based technologies, like transcendental meditation, improves behavior in society and improves, to the point of reduction of crime, reduction of infant mortality, reduction of accidents of the road. And so this is really the reality of Vedanta that is now becoming most modern and most effective and practical, not just as a philosophy, but as a effective technology of leading life in a better way for the individual and for society. I've written a book on that topic. It's called Consciousness is All There Is, which is actually a translation of Advaita Vedanta. The book is not a translation. It just gives the arguments of how consciousness is important and how by understanding consciousness and practicing techniques of consciousness, you can improve your personal life and find solutions to society. Thank you very much.